3 years ago, I achieved financial freedom. I no longer need to trade my hours for money. My bills are covered by all my assets. If that's a goal that sounds good to you, then stick around. You may be more accustomed to seeing me in the mountains, doing my living off the land videos, and there'll be a lot more of those coming. But to earn the ability to spend the time out there and to be able to buy the land that I own out there, it all started with financial freedom. This is part of the business playlist series of Living Off the Land, and I want to help you do the same. Today we're going to learn the very basics of financial independence. This is Finance 101. It may be too basic for some of you, and I'll have more advanced videos coming out in the future. But that being said, you should take pride in being a lifelong learner, and reviewing the basics can sometimes be very beneficial, even for the most experienced investor, entrepreneur, and hopefully you'll become a lifelong learner like I like to be myself. So why should you listen to me? Well, simply put, I created financial independence and freedom, like I said, about 3 years ago. I did so through real estate and small business ownership. So now I don't have to trade my time for money to pay all my bills. Those topics on real estate and business ownership are a bit more advanced, and those will be in videos that I release more in the future. But today I want to talk about the basics, the mentality, the lingo, what to know, how to make a plan, and at the very least allow you to create your very own simple blueprint so that you can achieve your own financial independence and freedom of time based on where you are, your interests, your strengths, and the goals that you have for yourself. So let's get into it. Finance 101, the blueprint for your financial independence. All right, so the agenda today, we're going to talk about the rich dad mentality, good debt versus bad debt, know the score to win the game, and small business passive income, as well as the power of real estate. So rich dad mentality, and of course I am taking this from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I strongly recommend reading those books if you're new or learning, and even if you're not, they're great. Firstly, we define assets and liabilities a bit different than an accountant might. Assets are appreciating and cash flowing. So when we say appreciating, we mean they go up over time in value. Think like rental properties, small business, things like that. Liabilities depreciate or don't produce cash flow. So things like cars, your primary residence, things along those lines. And of course, passive income, we're talking about making money that doesn't require our time. You will always stay in the rat race if you have to trade your hours for dollars. And so we want to be able to plan and build assets that produce cash flow for us. So problems and solutions. You might be spending more than you're making, and we'll talk about how to address that and know the score to win the game. Maybe trading hours for dollars. So we'll talk briefly about creating systems, passive income, and maybe employees or small business to help replace your time. And of course, you don't know what you don't know. So reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad really opened my eyes to an entire new world, and we'll talk about that a bit more as well. So good debt versus bad debt. There is a difference. Good debt is secured by appreciating cash flowing assets. So think rental properties and small business. They appreciate over time, so it makes your debt effectively smaller while you're also paying it down, and the cash flow from the assets covers the debt, at least if you're doing it right. Some other advantages of good debt: tax write-offs, a lower monthly burden than just owning it outright or having to pay cash, no prepayment penalty, although I'd rather see us invest in other assets than pay off debt early, especially if we have a favorable interest rate, and refinancing is not a taxable event. I'll talk about that more later. With regards to bad debt, they're secured by depreciating assets or no cash flow. Think credit card, car loans, or primary residence. How we can implement that is never carry a credit card balance. The interest rate on credit cards is insane. You cannot afford to pay the interest. Always make sure you use credit cards for the benefits, but pay them off every single month. You want to buy cars and depreciating assets with cash. If you can't pay for your boat, your motorcycle, extra car with cash, then you can't afford it and don't buy it. If you absolutely have to finance a vehicle because you need it to make money and for your job, that's one thing, but be smart about what you buy and make sure those are low payments on an affordable vehicle. We always want to finance real estate and business. We want to have a fixed interest rate. Variable interest rates can get you in trouble in different markets or different points in time. If you have the cash where you're so well off that you could just buy the asset outright it still makes more sense to finance it because you have those benefits we talked about before, and you can save that cash to make your payments and use it to invest in other assets and get a better return long score. Now, know the score to win the game. So one of my mentors always said, if, in sports, if you don't know the score, it's pretty hard to know who's winning. So we want to know the score, and we want to know that by you tracking your monthly income and monthly expenses. So I do so through an app where I track every expense that goes through my, that I spend every month, and I update a spreadsheet every month, and it only takes me about half an hour because of the systems that I use. Now you should be spending 1 to 2 hours a month reviewing what you're spending and what you're making and setting goals, and these goals we'll address here. You can look at your credit card statements on a monthly basis, or there's several apps out there that can help with this as well. You want to set goals for your expenses and create savings, especially if you're not at a place where you're making more than you're earning or having passive income covering more than you earn. Your first goal should always be to pay off your credit cards. Definitely use them for the cash back and the points and the safety because it's safer than a debit card, but do not carry a balance and do not pay interest because the interest rates are insanely high. Goal number 2, let's save money to buy an appreciating cash flowing asset. And we'll talk about that a bit more. So small business, whether that's you leveraging skills you already have or a hobby or looking into ways that you can make business with a side hustle, it's one of the best ways to be able to leverage other people's time and to get out of that rat race. So you can buy a business if you're like myself. I've done that 3 or 4 times at this point in my life, or you can start a business. At the very least, have a job and a side hustle that you're growing on the side. You want to build a skill, you want to master it, and duplicate yourself. So as you're building your business, if it's from scratch, create systems and manuals along the way of how you do what you do so that you can easily train an employee. We want to hire people to do the things that we can outsource. As a business owner, you should spend time doing only the things you can do. And what are those things will depend on you, your business, and your skill set. You will never be free if you can't make money while you sleep. It's extremely important this day and age, and just being able to escape that rat race and have true financial freedom and freedom of your time. The power of real estate. Now, I'm a little bit biased on this one, but there's a lot of very strong points of why you should consider investing in real estate. First of all, real estate's an appreciating asset. I'm 36 years old. There was one time in history where real estate went down in value in the Great Recession of 2008, but that came back relatively quickly. And if you look at any 5, 7, definitely 10-year period, real estate is always going up in value. That's that appreciating asset side of things. Cash flow potential. So I like rentals. I have cash flow for all of my rentals, and maybe we can talk in more detail in a future video about how to calculate that. But that's something where I'm producing more money than what the debt service, the vacancies, the maintenance, all that requires. There's great tax benefits, especially on investment properties. All the money that you put into maintaining, to doing repairs, to marketing for rent, those are all tax write-offs. And not only do you get to write that off to lower your tax burden today, it's increasing the value of your asset at the same time. You also get major leverage via a mortgage. My first house that I ever bought and lived in, I used an FHA loan where I only put 3.5% down. Guys, today my real estate is worth millions and millions of dollars. I've never had millions and millions of dollars. I used leverage, and it's a way that I and the wealthy create major net worth by using leverage that way. And it's also inflation adjusted. This kind of comes back to appreciating an asset, but even more so. When we have crazy inflationary times, rents also go up. So holding a rental long term, your income goes up as inflation goes up, and that's something that we see over time. Now, if you're just starting out, if you don't have a bunch of cash or capital or skills to build a business or buy real estate or aren't in real estate, I strongly recommend that your first step is to buy a duplex or a triplex, live in one of the units, and rent the others out. If you do this, I'm pretty sure they still have the same loan that I used, which is an FHA loan. You only have to put 3.5% down, which is a relatively small down payment, and they also will take the rental income into your own income. I bought my first property when I was fresh out of college. I had a pretty good job. I could get a mortgage, but not quite to the value of what some of the properties I was looking at. And they took my future rent income into account as my income, which allowed me to get a bigger loan. It also allowed me to live rent-free and to save money to buy more real estate and just have more freedom of my capital because I did not have a mortgage expense that I was responsible for. My tenants were paying for it. And it's a great retirement asset. Not only is it going to appreciate, and over the course of 20 or 30 years, you're going to make significant gains as far as the value of the property. Like we were talking about, it's inflation adjusted. So I'm not worried about having a fixed income like a lot of retirees are, because as life gets more expensive and inflation continues to go up, as it will for the rest of time, my rents go up, my income goes up. So real estate is extremely valuable because it appreciates, you can leverage it, you have significant legitimate write-offs, and you create cash flow, at least if you buy it the correct way. So whether you're looking for land, if you're a little bit more debt adverse and want to buy something that you can build on and live rent-free that way, that's another great aspect. Land will always appreciate. They're not making any more of it, and more people are looking to buy land in general, and so it continues to go up with value in time. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. This is just kind of a very intro to Finance 101. I want to expose you and introduce you to ideas that really can be life-changing, things that help me gain my financial freedom. And the blueprint and roadmap that we can follow to sum up from here is, first of all, you have to know the score. You've got to track your numbers, and I strongly recommend doing this on a monthly basis. You need to know how much money you're making, how much you're spending, what you're spending it on, and then use that to back into these other goals. Definitely figure out if you're not making more than you're spending, what expenses you can cut out, and do not carry a credit card balance. You should pay 0 interest every year on your credit cards, but continue to use them for the cash back and points and that kind of thing. I make thousands of dollars a year on my credit cards through cash back, and I pay 0 in interest. They're also safer than a debit card if they get lost or stolen. Secondly, you want to purchase or build a cash flowing asset. So buy and live in a duplex or triplex, or if you're already doing really well, buy an investment property, whether that's single family or land or duplex or triplex, and earn more in your monthly expenses and passive income. So we want to build a bunch of these assets so that we're making more in this passive income stream than our cost of living is. And third, don't be afraid of good debt. It makes millionaires, even billionaires, leverage debt. Companies like Apple and Google and Amazon have millions, if not billions, in the bank. They still have loans and debt because they understand these concepts. Obviously, you want to keep cash reserves. You always want to have a safety net. You don't want to have everything highly leveraged and have no cash, but you keep that cash for a rainy day and emergencies, and you also keep that cash reserve so banks will continue to give you loans while you let your income, cover your debts. Leverage is a powerful tool in finance. It's what allowed me to build over a 7-figure net worth without ever having that kind of capital, because you make down payments on assets that cash flow and allows you to use leverage. And if you do things the right way, it's extremely powerful. You also can take advantage of tax benefits through legal write-offs like we've talked about. And you never want to sell a strong asset. You want to refinance it. This is another secret of the wealthy. Refinancing is a non-taxable event, so you're making money without having a big tax percentage tied to it. It also allows you to write off that interest. So of course you're going to pay some interest, but you get to write that interest off as long as it's secured by a business or real estate, like I keep referring to. So apply these concepts. Comment if you have questions. Let me know what future videos would be helpful, what areas I can expand more on. Do you guys want me to make a video about rental income and how to calculate it and how to look for it? Do you want me to talk about how you can buy land? Please, continue for us to build this community. Please leave comments and feedback. Let me know what's helpful. Let me know if you disagree with me on certain things. Let's make it a conversation. But I can tell you from my personal experience, these concepts are powerful. This was a short video, but the ideas inside of it are definitely ones that will help if you apply them correctly. And let's continue to make a community of self-reliant people. And for me, that starts with financial independence and allows me to go out and spend my time in the mountains and in projects and building things that are going to allow me to build sustainable communities, which is the end goal. My mission is self-reliance through sustainable living, and we're here to build a community. Click here to subscribe to be sure to get more awesome content for living off the land. And be sure to go in to enter for notifications. Click that bell, get notifications, and stay in tune. Subscribe, watch, and comment. Let's build a community. See you soon.